everyone, and welcome to my metallic bubble technique workshop. In this workshop I'm going to be teaching you how to create the perfect bubble technique, but also make it look slightly different to what we're used to seeing. I really hope you enjoy it, so let's get started. Okay, so I have got my 3 tips ready, and obviously if we were doing this on a client we would have done our prep and then our base coat, but working on a tip we don't need to do that. So I'm going to show you 3 different techniques of how to create this metallic chrome bubble technique. So the first one I'm going to do as a traditional bubble technique. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, because I want it to be quite dark and I want my metallics to really show up and my chromes, I'm going to go in with my black. So I am using the black, which is Onyx from Nalchemy, and I'm going to do my first coat. So obviously if this was on a client this would be going on top of base coat, and I'm just going to give that a nice even coat of polish, and if we were doing it on a client we would be capping that free edge. So I'm going to pop that in the lamp, and that's going to go in for a full cure of 30 seconds. Now for my chrome I'm going to be using this rosy gold chrome effect powder. Okay, now there are different ways of applying your chrome effects. It's entirely up to you how you best feel you can apply your chromes, but I actually use these eyeshadow applicators, and these are the foam applicators rather than the sponge applicators, so they're a lot smoother in texture, and they're quite substantial, so when you're rubbing your chrome on it's not going to leave any fluff, and it's not going to come off of the stand or the handle. Okay, so I'm going to take my chrome lid off. Now you need to be super duper careful with these because they are super fine and because they are a pigment. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to apply a non-wipe top coat to be able to apply my chrome onto. So the reason I do this is because it gives a nice even surface, and I just find that's the best way to be able to apply any sort of chrome powder. Whether you were doing this finish or not, it is the best way of applying. So I'm just giving that a really nice thin even coat and making sure I'm capping that free edge, and that's going to go in for a full cure. Now the reason I'm using a non-wipe is because we don't want an inhibition layer on there. We want it to be smooth and hard. Now the best tip I can teach you with regard to applying chrome powders is to make sure that you're really quick when it comes out the lamp, because the heat helps for it to adhere to your top coat. So as soon as your top coat is ready and has cured from underneath the lamp, you need to take it out straight away and get that chrome powder on there, and literally just dab it on and get it on there. So you don't need to worry about burnishing it just yet or rubbing it in and getting that chrome effect. You just want to get that chrome all over the nail. So now I've applied my chrome powder, I'm going to burnish it. So what that means is rubbing it in basically, because as you can see it's quite glittery at the moment. It hasn't got that chrome effect that we want. So I'm literally just going to go in and you can see it change. So if I just do this side, you guys will be able to see the difference between the chrome unburnished and the chrome burnished. So this is really nice and shiny, and this is still glittery. So you can feel the difference when you're burnishing from all those particles changing and going into the chrome. So I'm just going to use a clean applicator and just get rid of any of those loose particles of that pigment. Okay, and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in again with a no wipe top coat. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to seal that chrome in. If we were just going to go ahead and do our bubble technique on top of this, it would just wash away. And obviously we don't want that to happen. So I'm just going in with my top coat. Again, my no wipe top coat. And that's going to go back in the lamp. So that's going to go in for a full cure. And make sure that you pop your lid back on your chrome powder, because we don't want that going anywhere that it shouldn't. And then once I have done my full cure on that top coat, I'm going to go back in with my Onyx, and I've already prepared my bubbles. So what I tend to do is I use for my bubbles a takeaway container, obviously a clean one, and I use sensitive hand wash. So I don't use Fairy Liquid or anything like that. I use a sensitive hand wash because obviously we don't want to oversensitize our clients. So I do about 5 pumps and about 1 centimetre of water, and then I literally put the lid on, make sure that it's nice and secure, and then I give it a really good shake. And what that hand wash does as well is it makes really nice fine bubbles. Okay, so I've given that a good shake up, and you can see I've got lots of really fine bubbles on there, which is exactly what we want. And to apply my bubbles, I actually use a wax spatula. So I find that these are really nice and wide, and they hold a lot of bubbles, because you don't want to be playing around with them too much once you lay them on the nail, because obviously they're going to start to pop. So I'm just going to pop that to one side, and I'm going to go back in with my black, and this time I'm going to do a slightly thicker layer. I'm not going to go too fine with the layer, but obviously we want a nice even cure, so you need to make sure that you're curing and laying that on nice and evenly so that it cures nice and evenly as well. So I'm not going to cure that, I'm going to go straight in with my bubbles. Okay, so I've got my bubbles on my wax spatula, and I'm literally going to lay those down on top of the nail, and we don't want to be playing around with our bubbles too much. We want to just lay those down and almost push them down into that gel polish, and that is going to go into the lamp with the bubbles still on. So I'm going to pop that in, and that's going to go in for a full cure. And what's happening is the gel polish is now coming up and around each bubble and curing. So that's how we get that bubble technique and that texture to the nail. Now, a lot of people don't like this technique because it leaves the nail rough, and I'm going to show you how to make it nice and smooth so that you don't have that rough surface. And it's really important to make it nice and smooth as well, because it helps to create depth on the nail. So I'm going to take that out the lamp now. We've still got our bubbles on there, so I'm just going to go in and remove those with a lint-free pad. You don't want to be using a cotton pad, because the particles of that cotton pad are going to get stuck in that texture that we have got on the nail. Okay, so we have now got our bubble technique in black on top of that chrome nail, but you can see we've got all these little wispy bits which I want to get rid of. So I'm just going to go in with a white block buffer, because they're small enough to be able to get rid of with that, and I'm just going to really lightly buff over that nail, and get rid of all those little tiny particles of gel polish that are sticking up. Now we don't want to do this too much because we don't want to take away our bubble effect. So I'm just going over really lightly over the entirety of the nail and removing any of those particles that we don't want. Okay. Oh. Obviously that wouldn't happen if we were doing a client because it would be attached to their finger. Because we've got that blue tack wet, it's not liking my stand. So I'm just going to pop that back on. Okay. And again, just filing over, looking down over the nail and just making sure also across that free edge, because we don't want any temptation whatsoever from our client to be able to pick at this nail. So I'm just going to dust off and just remove any of that excess dust. And then I'm going to go in with a base coat. So this is how we make this really nice and smooth. So the reason I'm going in with a base coat, I can just see a tiny little bit of... The reason I'm going in with a base coat is because it helps to fill in all those nooks and crannies, because it's slightly more fluid than if we were to use a top coat. So I'm just going in and making sure that I'm getting into each and every single one of those bubbles and just evening out that texture. Now, even though we've done the bubble technique, we don't want bubbles in our base coat because that's going to hinder the beauty of this design. So you need to make sure that once you've filled all of those bubble craters, you go over the nail to remove any bubbles that are in your base coat. Okay, so I'm going to pop that in now for a full cure. So that has now had a full cure, and I'm going to wipe off again with a lint-free pad because we don't want to get any fluff stuck in there. And again, I'm just going to re-blue tack. Okay, so we have filled in all of those craters and it's still a little bit lumpy bumpy because we've got rid of the little tendrils that were coming off our bubbles, but we've still got, you can see there, a little bit of an uneven surface, which is going to happen with the bubble technique because it's 3D. So I'm just going to go over again a little bit harder this time because we've protected the nail and those craters with our base coat, and that's why I've wiped off that inhibition layer, because if we didn't, we would be ruining our buffer because that inhibition layer would get stuck in there and we don't want that to happen. So I'm just going over now. You can see I'm being a little bit more firmer now, and you can hear it as well, making sure we go right to the end and the free edge of the nail and come around what would be our side walls and our cuticle. And you can see now we've really evened out that surface. So again, I'm going to dust off, and I'm also going to wipe off with a little bit of gel residue wipe off solution. And now I'm going to go in again with my no wipe top coat. So I'm just going to wait for that to evaporate and wait for it to go a little bit matte, because that shows us that our residue solution has evaporated. And I'm going to go in with my final top coat, so you can see how much smoother this is now. So I'm just gonna Stuart. Okay, so obviously if this was on a client, we would be avoiding the cuticle area and the side walls and making sure that we cap that free edge. And that is our final layer. So I'm going to pop that in the lamp for a full cure. And while that one's curing, I'm going to start on the second nail. So again, we're going to be using the bubble technique to create a chrome metallic look. And I'm going to go back in with my onyx and just do one layer that's really fine and pop that in for a full cure. So what I'm going to actually use for this, instead of using a chrome, I'm going to use a foil. So I'm using the holographic foils from Nalchemy, and they come in silver, but they have all different colours and patterns on them. Okay, so the one I'm going to use is like a disco ball, so it's lots of different circles because I think it's going to really complement the bubble design. So I'm just going to take that out, ready to be applied to the nail, and I'm going to cut off a little bit of foil that I want to use. So I'm just going to cut that off there and pop the other to the side. And then I'm going to take this nail out and I'm going to use the Nalchemy foil gel. So this is incredible to be able to get full coverage of foil on the nail. So I'm just going to go in and do a really fine, even coat of foil gel, and it goes on just like top coat. So I'm going to pop that all over the nail and making sure I cap that free edge. So that's going to go in the lamp for a full cure, and while that one is curing, I will show you the first nail that has now fully cured and come out of the lamp. So you can see we've got our chrome under there, which is just refracting the light beautifully. And we've also got our black bubble technique. It almost looks like snakeskin. I absolutely love this look. And it's super, super smooth because we filed on top and we've made that nice and smooth in texture. So there's no temptation from a client's point of view to pick at the nail. Okay, so that's our first nail completed. All right, it's really pretty, I love it. So our foil gel has now cured underneath the lamp, and what I'm going to do, I am going to apply my foils. So these Nalchemy foils, you don't actually need to wipe off the back, but some foils you do. So obviously get to know the foils that you're using, and I'm going to pop that straight down onto the center of the nail, and then just using my finger, I'm going to push that out from the center to the edges, right up to my cuticle line, and then down to my free edge. So any creases that are in there, just push those out right down to my free edge, and you can see that foil's lifting away because it has now adhered to the nail, so there's nothing holding it onto the nail. so it will start to lift away. So I'm just going to lift that away, and any areas, tiny little creases that haven't quite picked up that foil, I'm just going to dab that over. But you can see it's really, really tiny amounts, and that has given us a really nice full coverage of that disco ball. I love it. So, and you can see there that you've got that full coverage. So I'm just going to pop that to one side, and I'm going to go back in with my onyx. So because this isn't a pigment, we can get away with not doing that layer of base coat on top. So we can go straight in with our black. You can see that disco ball refracting through there. It looks stunning. It's nice on its own. So a really nice even coverage. Again, if we were doing this on a client, being aware of their side walls and cuticle area. And I'm going to get my bubbles again on my spatula, and I'm going to pop those bubbles down onto the nail, almost rolling it over. Try not to play with them too much, because you don't want them to start popping on you. I'm just going to bring that down over the free edge, and that's going to go into the lamp for a full cure. So when this comes out, again, I'm going to be putting a base coat on it, but I'm not going to, because I want to create a little bit more depth in this one, I'm not going to file it over. So that may seem quite strange that you're base coating on top of such an uneven surface, but we will file afterwards. So it's entirely up to you as to when you file away the tendrils of the nail. So I'm going to go in with a lint-free wipe, not a cotton pad, because we don't want any of that fluff to be caught into the nail. And I'm just going to remove those excess bubbles. And that disco ball looks stunning underneath there. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to go in with my base coat. So this is different to the first nail. And I'm going to, again, make sure I have gone into all of those nooks and crannies that have been created by that bubble technique. With my base coat, and then pulling it down over, making sure that we haven't got any bubbles in our base coat. Okay, so that's going to go in again for a full cure, and then once that comes out, I'm going to file over. So I'm going to again remove my inhibition layer with my gel residue wipe off solution, because we don't want that getting caught in our file, and I'm going to go in with my white block. And then once we have filed, I'm going to go in with my top coat and give that glass-like finish. So we can be a little bit harsher on this nail because we have got our top coat on there. So I'm going to go in with my lint-free wipe. And I see so many people leaving their bubble technique like this. Now, I just cannot even begin to imagine leaving a client's nail as rough as that. It would just get caught everywhere on everything, and is just an absolute perfect opportunity for them to pick away at their gel polish, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go in with my buffer. I'm just going to take that off the nail. So because my blue tack's getting wet, it's not liking it, so I'm just going to remove that. Obviously we wouldn't have this problem if it was on a client's finger because it's attached to their finger. So okay, so I'm just going in with my file and my buffing block and making that a really nice smooth surface. I'm going to go in with my file and tidy up that edge. And you can do this with a 100 grit file and just lightly go over. It's entirely up to you what you feel more comfortable doing. And then along that cuticle area. Okay, so I'm going to pop that back on my stand. Give it a dust off. And then I'm going to go in with my top coat, which again is a no wipe top coat. To give it that glass like finish. And you can see how different this look is to the chrome, because you've got that refraction of all different, the rainbow light effect on it. So I'm going to pop that in the lamp for a full cure. Okay, so that has now had a full cure, and as you can see, we've got all of those tendrils there that we need to get rid of. So you can either go in with your white block or your 100 grit nail file. It's entirely up to you, but that bubble technique will be protected by that base coat layer that we've put on top of there. Now I see so many people leaving their bubble technique like this. Now I can't even begin to imagine leaving a client's nails with all of these rough bits. Not only is it a massive temptation for them to pick at their nails, but it's going to get caught and it's just going to be a horrendous experience for your client. So it's really important to make sure that you remove that rough surface. Now I'm just going in with my white block, or you could, like this, go in with a 100 grit nail file, just really nice and gently over the entirety of that nail. It's entirely up to you, but again, we're just evening out that surface. We do not want to be carving down into that gel polish, because we don't want to remove that look of the bubble technique. So I'm just tidying up my free edge and my side wall just there, and then just literally scooching over the nail, looking down the barrel of the nail, making sure that we're keeping it nice and even. So I've done my cuticle area and my side walls, okay, and then coming down to that free edge, and then you can just scooch over really gently the top surface of the nail. Now you'll know when it's nice and even, because your file lines will be nice and even. So you can see here this part isn't even because we've still got that black, it hasn't turned to grey. So again, just being really gentle. I know it may seem that I'm going in quite hard, but you just have to be patient. I certainly wouldn't use an e-file on this, because with a hand file you've got a lot more control, so it's enabling you to file the areas that need it rather than the whole nail as an entirety. Okay, so just going into that last crater, and now I'm going to dust off and wipe over with my lint-free pad, and then I'm going to get my no wipe top coat, wait for that to evaporate slightly so it goes matte again, there you go, and then go in with that no wipe and make it really nice and even. So you can see the difference here of that refraction of different colours coming through that foil as opposed to the chrome that we did earlier. So again, if we were doing this on a client, we would be making super duper aware that we weren't having any contact with their skin. And you can see that there, that we've got all of those different colours of that foil coming through, but we've also got that bubble technique on top. So just wait for that to focus. There you go. You can see how that look is completely different to the first nail that we did with the chrome. So that is obviously still wet. I'm going to pop that in for a full cure, and while that one's curing, we are going to move on to nail number 3. So nail number 3 is going to be completely different entirely. So I'm going to go in, and it's just about having a play and seeing what works for you. So I'm going to pop my onyx on there, and I'm going to pop that in for a full cure. So that needs 30 seconds. And then I'm going to go back in with my chrome pigment powder, but I'm not going to do it just yet because I want it to sit in and around all the craters that our bubbles create. So I'm not going to do this like our first nail. I did it on top and then did the bubble technique on top of the chrome. I'm actually going to chrome the bubbles rather than the underneath like we did on this one. So that has now had a full cure, so I'm going to take that out and I'm going to do another layer of my black just to get that depth of colour, but this time I'm going to bubble this layer because I want the texture of the bubbles but not necessarily the pattern. So I hope that makes sense. Because we're doing black on black, you're not going to see the pattern as well as if we did a different colour. So again, I'm going to get my bubbles on my spatula, and my bubbles have actually dyed a little bit, so they've all gone a little bit big. Okay, so I'm going to pop the lid back on my container and give it a really good shake up just to create some of those finer bubbles. And my bubbles have gone a lot finer again now. So I am just going to wipe my hands off because they've just got a little bit wet. And I'm going to grab my spatula, pick up my bubbles and pop them down on the nail to create that crater effect. Okay, so that's going to go in the lamp for a full cure like all of the others did. And while that one's in the lamp, I'm just going to show you this nail that has now fully cured. So this is our foil, so our holographic disco ball foil with our bubble technique on top, and it's stunning the way the light refracts all those different colours, but you've got the smokiness of that bubble technique, and it's layered as well, so it looks, well, it is in the nail, but it's got that depth to it. I really like this look. Okay, so my bubbles have now come out from their full cure, and like before, I'm going to get rid of those bubbles with a lint-free wipe. Again, not using the cotton pad or anything like that, because we do not want any fluff. Fluff is our nemesis. So you can see we have got that bubble effect on there, and we've created all those craters. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in with my pigment powder. So what this is going to do, it's going to pool in the areas that have got the craters. Now, unlike the pigment powder that I used before, I'm not going to use this as my applicator, I'm actually going to use an old gel brush. So this is just a fluffy brush, but it's a little bit stiff, and what it's going to enable me to do is really push that pigment powder down into those craters. Okay, so you can see that there, it's really pushing down into my craters. Now what you could do as well, which I am going to show you, is you could use a different chrome pigment just to create a little bit of a different look. So this is like a light gold that I've got here, so you can see how it's different. It's not a silver, it's more of a light gold, and I'm just going to pop that in and around as well, just to create a bit of interest within that chrome. Okay, a little bit there I need to get into, and this is why a brush is so much easier than your applicator, because your applicator is going to get caught in all of those crevices, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to dust my brush off just on the side of my desk, just to remove any of that excess pigment, and now I'm going to burnish it. So I'm going to go in with my brush, and I'm literally, and this is why a stiff brush is really good for this, I'm going to rub all into those craters and get rid of any of that loose pigment chrome that's hanging around that we don't want. Okay, so you can use a swirling motion as well to make sure you really get in there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in with my base coat, and I'm going to fill those areas, those craters, okay, with my base coat. Making sure that we're getting in there and filling the entire area, and then going back through just really lightly, making sure that we haven't got any bubbles, because we want that glass finish to this, that we haven't got any bubbles within that base coat. So I'm going to pop that in for a full cure, which is 60 seconds. And again, make sure when you're using your chrome pigments that you always put your lids back on, because the slightest gust of wind will just make them go absolutely everywhere, and we don't want that. We don't want to waste our product. Okay, so I'm just going to tidy this up slightly, just remove that residue and clean off my gloves, because as you can see, those pigments get everywhere and you get chrome powder all over you. Okay, so that has now had a full cure. I'm just going to pop it back on my stand, and I'm going to go in with another layer of base coat. Now the reason I'm doing this is because when I file off all of these little tendrils, all these little hairs of the bubbles, I don't want to bring that black out. I want to keep this chrome effect. Now this would also be really good if you use Builder Gel, because you can almost encapsulate it. But this is just normal gel polish, not Builder Gel, because I appreciate lots of you may not do that. So I wanted to show you this effect with gel polish rather than a builder. And this can be done as well on top of acrylics, as like you would a normal gel polish on top of acrylics. So you can see that's still a little bit rough, but it's absolutely fine because we have encapsulated all of that chrome into our gel. Okay, and I'm going to pop that in again for a full cure. Now when that comes out, I'm going to wipe it over with a lint-free pad. Obviously, like I've said before, we don't want to be using a cotton pad because of the fluff, with a little bit of my gel residue wipe off solution just to remove that inhibition layer. Okay, so just using these, and then I'm going to file over really, really lightly. I'm not going to go in with my 100 grit nail file. I am going to just use my buffer because I don't want the black of that bubble technique to come up through. I want to keep it chromed. So I'm going to go in and remove that residue from that base coat. And now I'm going to go in and just scooch over, and you can see we've got a few little lumps and bumps there, and just remove those with my buffer. But at no point do I want to reveal the black of this bubble technique. So unlike before on the other nails, where we wanted to reveal that, we don't want to on this one. Hence the reason I'm using my buffer and not my nail file. So I'm just tidying up this side wall. Obviously, if we were doing this on a client, the side wall wouldn't be coming down here because their finger would be there. But I would recommend just to tidy up this on the free edge of the side wall, and also the free edge on the end. And then just scooching over really, really lightly and just literally removing those tendrils, because we've done our 2 coats of base. That's what's going to protect it. So it's just the tendrils that are going to be sticking up. Now obviously if we were working on a client, we wouldn't be working at these angles, but because my tip isn't wanting to stay on the stand, I've taken it off and I can work at a slightly different angle. Hopefully you guys will have watched my filing routine and you will see how to do it properly. If you haven't, it is a free workshop on my YouTube channel and also in the workshop group. So if you're unsure and haven't got your own filing routine, I do share mine with you. But when you're working on a tip like this, it's a bit more difficult to do a comprehensive filing routine because it's not attached to a finger. Okay, so that's nice and smooth now, and I haven't filed into it too much. And I'm just going to pop it back on my stand because I'm going to do one final coat of no wipe top coat, and that is going to give us that glass-like shine on top of the nail, and it's also going to help to create that depth to the nail, which is exactly what we want. So I'm just going to go in, and you can see how this look is completely different just by doing the chrome around a different way. So on top of the bubbles rather than under the bubbles, it's completely different to our first nail. Now you could also use like coloured pigments or whatever you want, neon pigment, to create this look, because what we've created is depth within the nail. So I'm just going to pop that on the back of my hand so you guys can see that depth, and you can see those 2 different colours that we've used in there of that chrome pigment powder. So if I pop it up against the first nail that we did, you can see it's a completely different look, but using exactly the same products, just in a different order. And that completes this workshop. So we have got our first nail that we did with our chrome pigment powder and our bubble technique on top, and then we have got our holographic foil, so that disco ball foil underneath of our bubble technique, again in the black, and you can use any colours that you want. I just really like the depth that the black gives to the nail, and it also really complements the gold and the silver. And then we have got our third and final nail, which is our bubble technique with the chromes on top of the bubbles, and then with our gel top coat on top of that. So this can be done, like I've said, on top of acrylics or on a natural nail. It's entirely up to you. And that completes this workshop, so I really hope you've enjoyed it. So that completes my metallic bubble technique workshop. I really hope you guys have enjoyed it, and if you did, please make sure you click the like button, and if you want to see any future workshops, please make sure you click the subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you all soon.